Hello everyone, this is Jackson Borges coming to you from All Saints Episcopal Church here in downtown Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to this week's Summer Organ Recital. Today we will hear from composers who are having some sort of an anniversary in the month of July. Last week we celebrated the music of Johann Sebastian Bach, for whom the 270th anniversary of his death was on July 28th. We're going to begin with another work by the great J.S. Bach, a movement from his magnum opus, the Klavierübung, or keyboard work, which is a Lutheran service for the organ as a solo instrument. And this is his setting of the German chorale Wir glauben all an einen Gott Schöpfer, which translates to We all believe in one God Creator. We will know this also as the Credo Fugue, as it sets the first few notes of the German chorale of the Credo hymn tune, and it is a brilliant example of the counterpoint and fugal writing for which Bach was so well known. So we begin today right around the 270th anniversary of Bach's death, with his great Credo Fugue in D minor. We move now to Paris with the music of the composer Déodat de Séverac. Might not be a very familiar name to many of us, but he did hold quite an important place in the history of music. He studied organ with the great Alexandre Guillemot at the Paris Conservatory, as well as with Vincent d'Indy, and was even the assistant to the Spanish composer and pianist Isaac Albeniz. He was more known for his vocal and choral music writing, and even had an opera staged at one point. He wrote a number of beautiful piano works and a few organ works, from which this next piece comes. This is the first movement, the prelude from his suite for organ. And in this, we hear not only a fair amount of sadness and melancholy, but we also hear a fair amount of the fugal and contrapuntal or even imitative writing that was no doubt influenced by the great Johann Sebastian Bach. So here now, this beautiful and somewhat sad prelude from the Suite for Organ by the French composer Déodat de Séverac. From de Sèverac, we move now to the Irish composer John Field, who held sway in the classical era and even into the early Romantic era. John Field is widely recognized as being the innovator or the originator of the form, the nocturne, which, if you are a Chopin fan, you will know that he wrote and played a lot of nocturnes. The nocturne, as a term, actually has its origins in the Middle Ages and referred to the canonical hours of the church. However, as a musical form that we come to know now, John Field, known as the originator, but as a vehicle, was taken up by Frédéric Chopin, as many of his appearances and recitals took place in the salons of Paris in the evening. So we hear now one of the more well-known nocturnes by John Field, that in B-flat major, here transcribed for the organ by yours truly. Our next composer, Ernest Bloch, was a Swiss-born composer of Jewish parentage who studied the violin from the age of 9. In fact, attending the Brussels Conservatory of Music, studying violin with the great teacher and violinist Eugène Izet. Bloch eventually moved to the United States, where he held a number of important collegiate posts, including those at the Cleveland Institute of Music, the San Francisco Conservatory of Music, and the University of California at Berkeley. This piece, his Wedding March Number 1, comes from a set of wedding marches, and this one is somewhat pompous, but in a humorous kind of way. In fact, it is based on a nursery rhyme, which, as you listen to the piece, I encourage you to figure out what that is, and I will tell you what it is after I'm done with the piece. But it is a rather fun little piece of music. So enjoy Ernest Bloch's Wedding March Number 1. Fun little wedding march by Ernest Bloch, and if you guessed the nursery rhyme was London Bridge is falling down, then you deserve a prize, because that is the nursery rhyme that that little tune is based upon. Moving forward now to the British Isles, I had mentioned at the beginning of this recital that all of the composers featured today are having an anniversary of some sort, and with the exception of the great J.S. Bach, whose 270th death anniversary was on July 28th, all of these composers were born in the month of July. And so in the British Isles, we move to the 20th century composer Gerald Finzi, whose music bears most of, if not all of it, bears a rather elegiac or melancholy character. Finzi is best known for his choral and vocal works and even some very gorgeous instrumental works. For those of us serving the Episcopal Church, we are all familiar with Finzi's great Ascension anthem entitled God Is Gone Up. Finzi ran in some pretty heady crowds. He studied with Edward C. Bairstow and was friends with Ralph Vaughan Williams. And though he wrote no organ music, sadly, this piece has been arranged for organ solo from his great work, Intimations of Immortality, based on the ode of the same name by Wordsworth. Andrew Sivright took some portions of that choral work and fashioned them into this beautiful, beautiful prelude for organ. Finzi's writing bears some characteristics, even some similarities to the language that was used by Vaughan Williams, Herbert Howells at times, and even the composer Percy Whitlock. So enjoy this beautifully arranged prelude for organ by Gerald Finzi. We end this week's recital staying in the British Isles with the music of Gordon Jacob. Gordon Jacob was known primarily for his works for wind band, woodwinds and brass, but he did write this fun little festal flourish for organ solo, and it showcases the big solo trumpets that we make up here at the organ of All Saints. With this piece, I wish to say thank you so much for joining me. We will be here again next week for another summer organ recital, and I do invite you, as always, to visit our website, allsaintsandstgeorges.org, and see all of the wonderful things that we have going on here in the parish, not the least of which are our Sunday services, our nightly Compline services with Mother Eunice Dunlap, as well as these organ recitals that we present every week. We do hope that you are able to give if you are so moved. We do have a donate button on the website. If not, we do hope that you are spiritually fed by what we have going on here in the parish. And with that, I say thank you so much. I look forward to having you join me again next week here at All Saints, and I bid farewell to you with Gordon Jacob's Festal Flourish.